But
Sounds good, buddy. We can do that for sure.
and then what did I have too? I had like river fishing versus like lake fishing, and then what was it?
Yeah, it's been nuts. But lately, I have been seeing more and more up for sale, like Marketplace and Craigslist stuff like
Oh,
that. So
it was like
the fly by
uh,
nighters.
like spring cleaning too. People buy some stuff, they use it once or twice. It's time for them to
Yeah,
get rid of it.
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't have no place to store it, kind of deal. So,
Yeah, it's
but
hard spending money on stuff and then letting it rot outside.
that's just it. And you'd think about that beforehand. You know what I mean? It's like, first of all, you got a kayak, so how are you going to get it from point A to point B? Second, how are you storing this thing so it's staying out of the elements?
Right, right. And stuff lately. How's the
Yeah,
shop
lately
going?
it's been, yep, lately it's just been walleyes, getting ready to switch gear to some smallmouth fishing, and then I do have two trips booked for some salmon fishing. So going out on a charter boat and trying to get some salmon.
Oh, okay, right on. Yeah, I was
Yes,
looking it
sir.
up. They were saying I didn't know salmon fishing was like that big up there for some reason.
It's yeah, it's pretty big up here.
So here, dude, like, how'd you get introduced into fishing?
All right, so started fishing when I was knee high to a guy. So
Uh huh.
Grandpa took me out when I was younger, and just been hooked ever since.
Okay. And so, like, what age are we talking? Like 5?
Yeah, 5, 6. I had a pole in my hand. I was out on the boat, reeling in bluegills, perch, bobber fishing mostly. And then got about 12 years old and ended up getting a boat and had a little 14-foot boat. We were right on the Townsend flowage in Wisconsin up here in the north. And it's days and days I'd spend out there on the water. So didn't have a whole lot of friends or nothing growing up. It was just a boat and a couple oars and my fishing pole for the most part. So a lot of time on the water.
And so, what kind of stuff were you guys throwing back then? Like, let's say, like, when you were 12, like, what was some of the stuff you guys were throwing, or some of the tactics you were using back then?
So the first thing ever tied on my pole was called the beetle spin. So it's pretty much just a smaller version of a spinner.
Okay.
It's got a couple blades on it and a chunk of plastic, and that's exactly what I was using. Most of my life was all live bait, so I'd fish a lot of leeches, a lot of night crawlers, and a lot of minnows. Wasn't up until a couple years ago that I really switched over to artificial baits and lures.
Really?
So, start, yep, starting to put the work in with that. Doing
Okay.
my homework, you got to research everything you do, and the best way to research it is to get out there and use it. So,
And so, what made you switch from bait to like hard baits and lures and all that, soft baits and everything?
basically, I was sick of running every day or every other day to a tackle store to get live bait, and then I got to try to fight and keep it alive and everything else. And it really, it's more cost effective to use artificial bait and lures in my point of view.
Yeah.
So that was the big reason why I switched over to artificial. And I don't know. I haven't been looking back since, so we'll see what happens.
So then, how's the journey been with artificials then? If you've only been doing that for a couple of years.
Yeah, all the first year was a lot of ups and downs. Starting to kind of get the hang of it now. This year's really been decent. Last year I had a heck of a walleye run. Ended up with four masters, which were 30 inches or better. So did pretty good. This year I couldn't get on the masters. My biggest this year for walleye was 28 and a half inches. So still a big girl, but not quite big enough for the books, I guess.
Well, or what is it? It's got to be over 30 then, or
30, over 30. So 30-inch walleye, that's a big walleye. You get anything over that, you're definitely in the 30 plus club. So the
And so
biggest walleye I've ever seen in my life was 36 and a half inches.
that's pretty. And so how big? Like, what's the biggest one? Uh, what's the biggest they're really getting up there? Like, are they getting 40 inches?
I haven't seen one yet, but you almost gotta think. I mean, it's such a vast area, and you got the Great Lakes, and
Yeah,
you just never know. To me, there's a 40 incher out there somewhere. That's what keeps me going.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, definitely. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. So my goal this year is to do a little more kayak fishing for them. That's one thing I usually don't do. I mainly just bang the shore for walleyes. And this year I'm definitely going to get out in the kayak and try that side of things. Well, I've had a boat, and some of the waters that I go to, it's you got to carry in your boat or whatever you're using. So there's no motors. You can only use oars on these lakes. They're hardly ever fished, let alone anybody seeing them. So that's kind of what I do. And the simple fact that I can't get them in or can't drag my 14-foot aluminum boat back there, that's the reason why I got a kayak.
okay.
So a little more accessible. It's easier to get around. Just got more access to more waterfronts with the kayak, in my eyes. Can I fish more water than I can with my other boat? No, absolutely not.
Hmm.
It's just time wise, it takes, an hour to get a mile usually in a kayak. So,
No, I'm thinking about getting into kayak fishing and stuff too. Like, I'm the same. I just don't have a place to put it, things like that. Then you got to get like the setup and then worry about the wind and like all kinds of
yep,
things.
yep.
Um,
Yeah, I actually know a couple people out by you that are big into kayak fishing, so I'll message you their names after this so you can get a hold of them. And I
all
know
right.
they got extra kayaks, so even if you want to go out just to try it out to see if that's even a direction you want to go, I know they'd be
Yeah.
more than happy to help you out with that. So,
I've been in one a couple times and it was a sit in, not a sit on. And it wasn't the
yep,
funnest experience, and then it's really just like how bad do you want to go try out those other spots? Like you're saying, like because like I'd be on the bank and I'm like, oh, if I could just be over there, then I'm on the fish, like, but it's not even that's not
yep.
the case, like because then I'll get the kayak,
Uh,
I'll go over there and I'll not catch nothing.
Exactly. Oh, there's so many times I'm sitting on the bank and I'm watching these guys 100 yards from me in a boat just hammering fish, and I can't get nothing to bite. It's like, oh my God, I just want to get out there. But I noticed a couple times if there's only like one guy in a boat and you're standing over by the launch, you offer them 10, $20 a lot of times. They'll take you out on the boat with them because they're the same. They want somebody to fish with just as bad as you do. So there's a
Right.
lot of nice folks out there. They'll help you out. You just gotta ask.
Yeah, I ended up going fishing today. I only went like a couple times in January and once in February. Wasn't catching much. Kind of got caught up with other stuff, finally got a day to fish and then ended up catching one on the glide bait today, super surprisingly. And then
That's awesome.
the weather finally warmed up, so it's like 80 degrees today, and then tomorrow it's supposed to be 80. And then like literally yesterday was like 75, like 72 or something, just jumped up real quick.
That should get the fish going for you.
Hmm.
Yep, that's how it was here. So we had a big drop. It was 39 and snowing, and 3 days before that, well, the 3 days prior to that, it was 82 degrees. So it went from 82 to 39 and snowing.
Hmm.
It's like, good Lord, just can't catch a break up here. It's got the fish all kind of screwed up. And the suckers pushed in with the walleye this year. And what happens when the suckers push in with the walleye is the suckers are looking for food. It's easy food for them. So they'll take and smash the bottom half of the walleye to get them to push their eggs out, and then they'll suck the eggs up. So while doing that, they're causing the walleye to go into a frantic and they end up pushing back out to the bigger waters. So that all kind of dictates how long the walleye run is going to be. Like this year, we got literally 2 days where it was, hammered down where you could really have a good time out there and, catch your numbers from
Mhm.
shore, anyways. The boat guys had a little longer season than what we did this year.
Yeah, that's some of the stuff I wanted to talk to you about too, with like, because I was really curious about how walleye in these bodies of water are affecting bass or affecting bluegill or affecting the bait kind of thing. And then too, you guys got like multi-species waters compared to some place kind of like California, where there's like less species kind of in freshwater and
Yep.
stuff. And then we maybe get into one of those topics, or you could explain it. I wanted to know too, like kind of how you start your business, or like what made you like want to do that with like the little shop thing.
Well, the entrepreneur side of it, so we've been kind of doing that for about 20 years now. I was helping my folks out. We just got started. If we can make a dime on it, we try to have at least three sources of income coming in at all times. That's that'd be one of them. Just stuck with us. So we started the store, and unfortunately, what was it? Say about 6, 7 months ago, they ended up selling the store on us. So right now we're in transition, trying to find another building. Until then, I'm trying to keep the name going and everything, keep the sales up. So we're doing expos, we're doing fishing shows, home shows. I mean, anywhere I could set up and keep the name going, keep the name out there and everything else. So
And
it's
so
it's a
don't you
grind right
do it
now.
like online too as well? Like online sales and stuff you run?
Yep, yep. I do have a little bit selling Facebook and Instagram right now. I'm working on a website, but the, the cost of getting a website going is just kind of blowing my mind right now. So it's that's hard, but I'm getting ready for it. So taking down all the pictures of all the products I have right and everything. So when I can just hit the ground running and get the ball going on that end of it. So I think that's crucial. I mean, in any business right now, I think a good, feasible, workable website is an absolute 100% must. Three-quarters of the U.S. rather sit at home, push a button, and wait for the stuff to come to their doorstep than, you know, having to go out to get it themselves.
Mhm.
That's kind of my theory on it. Me, on the other hand, I'm a hands-on guy, so I need to hold it, touch it, see it before I even buy it.
Yeah.
But that's personal preference, I guess. So,
Yeah, I'll be watching like review videos and stuff to like try to see like how big it is or like what people are talking about or like stuff like that, if they're like actually worth buying kind of deal.
yeah. So I got a question for you. So out of
All right.
all the like the new products and everything coming out, how much of it do you think is a gimmick? How much of it do you think is just to catch a fisherman?
Yeah, I almost want to say more than like 50-50. Um, but then again, too, it's always one of those constantly evolving things. So it's like the original, like let's say the fluke, right? They're changing the fluke with the tail and the little shape kind of and stuff. And then it's like maybe that's just like it advancing. It's just advancing, it's like, oh, like original shape and then like the shape kind of change, like, oh, I almost kind of see it like cars almost, like with the new like Chargers and Challengers. It's like, okay, yeah, it's new version, but it's like different. Like people like that, so um,
Yeah, perfect example of that is all the big swim baits coming out right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of
You
stuff
know,
like
a lot of variations of the swim bait right now, as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, there's like what swim bait do you mean in particular? Like
Well, I mean, the one I've been keeping my eye on, and I would love to just give it a shot and throw it around, but I'm never going to afford it, is the Hinkle Shad. I mean, right off the bat.
so the thing with the Hinkle shad is that the Hinkles are literally the nicest, highest quality, handcrafted bait that's available to, and or you can get one, you could outsource one type thing. Um, I think like they're kind of doing it like they only make like 200 a year or something like that, and
Yep, it's a limited drop every year. Yep.
yeah, or like it's super realistic, you know, and it's like a slow sink, big bait. Um, yeah, there's all
Well, and it's
kinds of
produced
stuff.
results. You know what I mean? It's produced endless 10-pound fish.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
and it
proof's in the pudding.
it's not one of those things too, like, oh, you go spend the money, buy this, and you go catch the fish. Like, I promise. Like, just like, or anyone who has a Hinkle, they know, like, what type of work, or some of them might not, but the average person knows, like, what type of work it takes to get that bit by that caliber of fish. And two, like, you can get small fish to bite like a big old um, profile like that. Um, um, I was just watching one the other day, and they were talking about like everyone has a rat bait. Like every company has a rat bait almost. They're like, and then or you'd have to know someone who's got some or something. Um,
Well, that's exactly what it was. So, I mean, before, even this pandemic 2 years ago, I've never even seen it until I came on, Instagram here. And it's like, oh, they got a rat bait, huh? Well, it's not something we would typically throw up here in the north. So, but yeah, I do see a lot of them now since you guys started coming out with them. That's for sure.
so basically, my understanding with it, right, is that these big name companies, like mass produced companies, they started seeing what these other people who are way more like been doing swim bait in their garage for the last 15 years kind of thing. They seen
Yep.
that little niche market and they went, oh, we need our little piece of that. And then it became a more popular thing from like they say it started here, but I don't know how that translates from like Japan swim bait to American swim baiting because I really think the Japanese guys came and showed us that, or like, or some people here just started doing it and then we picked up on what they were doing in Japan, like vice versa kind of deal. But they're
Yep.
kind of basically saying that like America started swim baiting type thing, like, and
Yep.
then uh, I think it's one of those things too, like for me, it's like the extreme fishing. Like swim baiting for me is like the mountain bike, like downhill mountain biking, or like motocross, or like it's like that level of like extreme for me kind of deal. And then
Yeah, it's top notch for sure.
so I think these big companies they went, oh okay, well now we need to start making swim bait. So you got like a lot of these brands, like everyone you can go to like a and they'll probably have some kind of big caliber swim bait that you could buy whether it's for like $15 or $50.
Yep.
I don't know. I think it's fun. It's kind of just like a new way to fish for people and stuff. A lot of people get like discouraged or they think like fish don't bite this kind of stuff or like, oh, I can't lose a bait that cost over this much money, or like all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And
Yep. It intrigues me though. It's definitely something I want to start picking up, and this year or next year for sure. I want to start throwing some bigger swim baits around. Absolutely.
yeah, and there's a
So, what do
big
you recommend as far as a pole goes? A swim bait pole. I mean, is that gonna differ, from what I'm using day to day?
like you got a musky rod, right?
Yep.
Um, a lot of a lot of guys started with like a musky rod. Um, you definitely kind of want something that's gonna hold a bunch of line because you're gonna run that like 25-pound line. And then I would say for me, it's really like you want a stiff rod with a good tip. You want you want a broomstick but with a tip on it. And then
Gotcha.
I just want run one rod, and it's the A rig swim bait deal that they made. I forget what brand it is. And then I run what is it? A Shimano Tranx 300 reel.
Yep. That's a good reel.
It was just one of those like investments. Like, okay, if you're gonna do this, like, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna blow through like six reels for nothing. You know, I'm just gonna get one that does the job.
Yep, yep. And that's one thing I wish I would have did too, is just kind of bit the bullet and got some quality stuff right away. I just ended up getting my first quality carbon rod, and I wish I would have did it 20 years ago. No, no lie. I mean, it's definitely changes the game as far as sensitivity. I'm not losing as many bites as I was. It's definitely up my game the last year and a half here. So.
Mhm.
Yeah, now I'm thinking twice. I might as well save my pennies and get some quality stuff instead of, buying 30 of the cheaper ones and hope to God something freaking falls into place.
Like it depends, you know. Like I base it like off of tools, you know. So like I go to Harbor Freight, you know. I buy tools and stuff, but like that tool doesn't get used every day. That tool's not getting hours put on it, kind of thing. But
Right.
definitely with the fishing stuff, you kind of want to like, or depending on what type of gear you want to buy and everything, and how you're gonna use it, just buy once and cry once. You know, like that's it.
Yep. Yep, I like that. That's very true. Very true statement. Might as well just suck it up and get her done. Uh, Yeah,
What have
so
you done?
mainly this year I've been doing a lot of jigging.
Uh-huh.
Plastics, tipped with plastics or tipped with a minnow. That seemed to be really for me this year. Um, didn't get out and do any ice fishing this year. Didn't even pull nothing out. Just
Really?
focused on the business and getting ready for. I had a bunch of summer plans. So making crossing the T's and dotting the I's on those plans, making sure they go through this year. So that's about what I spent my winter on for the most part.
Mhm. Yeah, I just keep looking over at the notes. That's why I'm looking over or whatever. Um,
And the other thing
so,
I'll touch up on as far as walleye fishing. So when I get to the lake, I mean, the first thing I do or the first thing I get to, the lakeside, the riverside, creek bed, anything like that is I'll stand back about 5 feet, 6 feet, and I'll just pitch in before I even walk up. Because 7 times out of 10, there's going to be a fish sitting right there at your feet. And as soon as you walk up and your shadow creases that line there, I mean, they're gone. They're spooked. They're out of there. So that's another advice. The other one that I have is I think bright colors on sunny days. If I got an overcast day, I'm gonna dull it down. I'm gonna use a black and gold. I'm gonna use a black and purple or something along, the natural lines. That was another point I wanted to kind of
Yeah.
touch base on. And then when you're river fishing, I always throw upriver and I let the river do the work. So make sure your jig's heavy enough to bounce the bottom. As soon as you tick something, you lift the top of your rod up. That bait's going to rise and it's going to fall. And you just keep doing that, keep repeating it. When it's on that rise and starting to fall, 9 times out of 10, that's when the walleye is going to strike it. So you got to think about all the crap that they went through to get upriver in that channel to spawn. You know, they swam for miles in nasty old current. The last thing they want to do is sit in current and eat fish. You know, so they're hunkered up right on the edge, right on the money line, we call it. So right on the crease of the breakwater where kind of the slack water starts and then the current starts. You'll have a line right there, and that's usually where they're hunkered down 90% of the time in a river.
And so, like, how much different, like, what's the difference really with like walleye and bass kind of thing?
Um, Walleye, I mean, bass, they come out and hammer the bait, in my opinion, especially smallies. I mean, they come out and attack it. Walleye, I mean, there's a lot of times you can put the bait right in their mouth and you still can't catch the darn things. Like they're just kind of soft biters. They don't really hammer it. Some days they do, but the majority of their time they're just kind of lipping it, running off with it. So you really got to watch your line and watch the tip of your rod when you're walleye fishing. So to me, that's the big difference between walleye fishing and bass fishing. When I'm out there bass fishing, I know 100% that the fish is on the line, you know, because it's such a force when it hits.
Yeah, or like I was just kind of thinking of it as like predatorial kind of like behavioral sense, or like they're they're definitely kind of eating like different stuff though, huh? Or like,
Yep. Walleye particular, you know, most of the time they're on the bottom. They're feeding whatever's on the bottom. Once in a while they'll come up and grab something, but most of my experience for bass, they're suspended. You know, at least in the river system that I fish, anyways. Little fun fact. So a 30-inch walleye, if you think about how old it is, the DNR, Wisconsin DNR just did a study on it. And the
uh
30-inch walleye ranges 20 years old for a 30-inch walleye. It's been in that river system for 20 years.
and so then what's the? I heard you guys talking about it too one day where you're saying like the walleye go to Canada.
Well, yeah, I'm sure they run up in there. Absolutely. The Great Lakes, everything kind of flows together. So, Canada has one of the best walleye fisheries out there.
Okay.
Bar none. Absolutely. I would love to get out there and fish.
Yeah, I'm real interested with like the like different behavior with like these walleyes living with bass, and then like uh your waters stay colder longer type thing. So I want to learn like about like the temp difference and how they're way used to this cold temp. Um,
Yep. So they're pretty lethargic. If the temp's 30 or below, the water temp's 30 or below, they're not really moving. They're just kind of hunkered down in a deep hole, and that's where they're sitting. When they start moving up river to spawn, the water temp's usually around that 40-degree mark. Once the water temp hits 50, 55 degrees, then they're pretty much spawning out and head back up to the main body of water. So, um, early season, you really need to. I kind of this year I really played around with the size of my bait and I actually went bigger early on in spring and had a lot better luck giving them a bigger profile bait. So I was running a 4 or 5 inch bait and seemed like I had a lot better luck because you know it's the same thing I was saying before. They fight so far up there, you know, they want the biggest meal the easiest way they can get it. So It seemed like upping my bait size early on when the water temp was low really seemed to help me out. And then once it hits 45, 50, it's pretty much game on. You can throw them a bare hook and they'll chew on it. So those
Really, you can feed
are
them
the
bare hooks like that?
those
They
are the
just
big things. And I think I don't know if all species kind of act that way. I know northern are pretty active during the winter time, but I think bass are the same way. They're kind of lethargic when we get ice cover. So
yeah.
that I would have to look into. I just started bass fishing this last year, so otherwise I'm pretty much strictly walleye, northern, or panfish guy for the most part. So definitely a lot to learn with bass fishing.
Mhm. Well, it's kind of like it's all like walleye, perch, bluegill, all that translate to bass. You know. Um,
Yep.
so here's some. You got like any crazy fishing stories?
Oh, let's see here. Man, I got a couple of them, but let's kind of hard to tell here. So I was out fishing with a buddy. We were out on a pier and we were catfishing.
Uh,
And we had one pole out. We were getting ready to rig up another pole, and sitting there, we were probably about 20 feet away from the pole. We see it start bouncing, and all of a sudden, it just comes upright, and it's sitting straight, vertical or horizontal across the rail. We both of us at the same time started running for it, missed it. A week later, I'm out fishing, tied into a catfish, decent one. I'm out in my kayak. All of a sudden, I reel it in, and there's a lure hooked to it. So I'll start reeling it in, start reeling it in. Here's my buddy's pole we lost a week ago. So I ended up calling him up. Hey, got something for you. He's like, oh yeah, what's that? I'm like, oh, I'm not saying nothing. I'm just gonna come over. So went over there and ended up giving it back to him. So that's probably one of the craziest stories I got that recently happened.
on a jig? You caught it on a jig?
Yeah, on a jig, yes sir.
That's funny.
Yeah. But would that ever happen to me? No. If I lose it, that thing's going 30 miles upriver. I'm never seeing it again. Yeah, got lucky. Yeah,
So man, I have so many notes. There's so much stuff.
it's hard to keep it all straight.
I don't want it to be like too like answer this question, answer that question. You know, it's kind of like
Yep. Yep.
just.
Nope, that's fine.
I got some
Like
stuff.
one of my biggest goals this year is to try to do more work with the veteran organizations that we have around here. And then the other thing I'd like to do is kind of like a kids event. It's probably not going to happen this year, but in the near future here, I would like to kind of get the kids out there fishing. We have a pond in our neighborhood that a bunch of guys, bunch of farmers, and everything got together and they stocked up just for the kids.
Mhm.
So you got to be 12 and under in order to fish. And there's some decent fish in there to get them hooked, so get them excited. I would like to kind of contribute to that a little more and just get out and fish with more people on Instagram. So far, I've got probably about 20 people under my belt that I fished with off of here, and every single one of them has just been a blast. So, kind of try to do a little more of that this season. And like I said, we got some bigger trips for salmon charters booked, and I got a sturgeon trip booked. So, we're staying busy, staying
Okay.
focused this year, buddy. That's the name of the game.
How many states have you fished to? Because the states too over there are kind of like a little bit smaller. Like people come over here to California and they're like, "Oh, I'm in Southern California and you're in Northern California." They act like it's like 2 hours away. It's not. But, So yeah, like how many states have you like fished, or like where are some places you want to go or haven't been, or things of that nature?
So there's really only two states that I fished in, and that's Michigan and Wisconsin. Haven't really got out much. That's another goal too. I'd like to get out to a couple places and get out and do some fishing. I'd love to get out to like the Mills Lake area, like Minnesota, Lake of the Woods. I'd love to get out to Canada and do some fishing. Um, California, I'd like to get some halibut fishing in. I'd like to get down to Florida. There's a couple guys down there I'd love to fish with. Texas, Tennessee. Let's see. We can keep on naming counter,
Yeah,
keep
every
on naming
state
states
basically.
here. Yeah, about every state. I'd love to go fish it. Absolutely.
Yeah, the
It's
ones that
it's
stick
been a
out
fun
for
ride.
me are like California. I'm already here, but there's tons of places, and then like Idaho, the Snake River, Florida, Texas, and like maybe like Louisiana or some. That's kind of just like my main ones.
Yeah.
Uh,
So how far away from Texas are you?
um, like driving, I think you can fly there in like 3 hours. Uh,
Oh,
Driving though would be
okay. What
like,
about driving?
I think it's really far. What was it? It depends how many times you stop. But
Okay. I wonder if that'd be a cool weekend trip though.
to
The only thing
Texas,
with flying is I'd hate to fly with my poles and all my gear, and it's just something's gonna happen.
yeah, like you either need like to get all your stuff there ahead of time and just like leave dedicated stuff, or go with somebody that already has
Yep,
everything you need.
yep, yep, definitely. Yeah, I would love to get out to Texas, man. Go grab me a 10 plus. Oh, that'd be freaking amazing.
Let's see what the directions say.
That's the hard thing about up north is a lot of people eat bass up here. So for us to get a 10 pounder, I mean, it's rough. It's rough.
These are good topics, dude. These are really good topics because there's a lot of talk about this right now with like um, eating bass and bass population and all this bass stocking like is a big
Yep,
one no one talks about. And
yep,
like realistically, I believe that the rivers aren't doing well to begin with because of dams and things, and our stocking programs and things like that aren't good. Um, but yeah, if like there's belief to grow big fish, you got to get rid of the small fish, and then the small fish eat all the bait, and then like I'm sure they could, but then like the big fish are just gonna eat that fish, or like, or what if there's no big fish? Then all the small ones die. I don't, you got to talk to like a pond expert. A lot of these ponds and lakes aren't managed. Is what's wrong with it, really. Like, yes, as long as there's a big enough population. And it depends what the water's doing. Like, or two, some of these spots that I'm fishing, like, you don't want to go keep 5 bass every day. Like, because in 2 weeks, there's going to be no fish. Like, I promise. Like, there's going to be no fish, or they're not going to bite, or they're going to die out, or some weird.
yep.
A
Well,
lot.
say you got 500 people taking 5 bass out of that in a month. I mean, that's that's a good way to put a damper on a population real quick. And I think I've been seeing it up here even too. And we got, single management, situations where we have fisheries that have their own, management team and everything else, and they go around, but I they don't say what they do with their money half the time, or what kind of programs or what direction they're going in. I mean, none of that. We're kind of in the dark as far as that goes on a lot of these places.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely like a better fish management program put in by the DNR or whoever's running the show. So
Mhm.
Makes me cry when I see a guy with five of them, smallmouth on a string or two, three birds. Like, oh man, come on, buddy. Really, there's panfish, there's perch, there's bluegill, there's other species that taste better than that. That's kind of my thought process on the matter. But
Yeah, I I've only kept like one bass kind of thing, like ever in my life kind of deal. And like I just don't like keeping them just because I know like I feel like the populations aren't doing that good. And like what I mean by that is like I'll go there for a week straight and like not catch nothing for like the whole season essentially. Or like I'll go to the same places multiple times and like not catch fish. It's not like, oh, I'm a bad fisherman. Like it's like no, like the fish aren't here. Like
yeah, they're just not available to catch right now.
or they
But
have like a
yeah,
super
I
low
mean,
population or
yeah, the only bass that I ever, catch and eat are rock bass. They're pretty close to a bluegill species. They're a little smaller, but that's about the only bass I eat. Everything else gets tossed back.
like the guys that are growing big fish in their private ponds, they take out everything 14 and under. And that's kind of been like proven to grow big fish. There's another company too I heard of, I forget their name, and I guess they're working on growing bass and select breeding kind of thing. It's not the ShareLunker program, it's some other like private entity. And then they're working on doing this thing to get they want giant bass in every lake. So like whether they're gonna sell them to the state or sell them or I don't know how they're gonna do it, but they're growing big fish and they're getting them out there to like people privately right now, and they're trying to get it open to the public kind of deal. Um, but so here a Texas trip for me would be about a day and a half straight.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
That's gonna
yeah.
be a dedication trip right there. I better get one.
So even if you stop, like if you stopped in Arizona for a night, you'd be there basically like a 2 day trip just driving.
Oh man, yeah, I think I'd have to go with the first option then. Fly down there and buy a pole, and
Yeah, you gotta
the
meet up
rest
with
of
people, grab some gear. Um, so here's another one too. Like, so how, especially with you kind of being newer into the artificials, when you go to a body of water, how do you start? Like, how do you break that body of water down? Like, like you first walk up to, like you're saying with the walleye, for instance, like you kind of don't go to the shore at first, or like what are you looking for in at a body of water? Like, what are some of the things you're keying in on as a fisherman to catch these fish?
well, I'm looking at the current flow on the top is mainly what I'm looking for, and then as the current's flowing, if there's a rock or something in its way or a log, what's going to happen is there's going to be a dead spot right behind it, and you're actually going to see the current kind of flowing off on a V like this. Nine times out of ten, in that dead spot right there, you're going to have a fish sitting, holding up. Nine times out of ten. So I'm reading the top of the water 90% of the time I'm out there, and everything's constantly changing as far as, if they're opening up the dams, there's more water, there's more current, everything's participating differently. So, I mean, you got to adjust on the fly all the time when you're out there. And I think that's the main reason that I'm hooked on river fishing. Is that it's a challenge every minute you're out there, every day you go out there, it's something different.
So your river is rising and lowering too, kind of deal as well. A
Yeah,
lot.
correct. Yep. Especially this time of year. Yeah. I mean, it could fluctuate 3 to 4 feet in a matter, a couple hours. So with all the runoff of the snow and everything that we get and the rain, so all that fluctuates it. And there's people up in the towers that are reading computers and monitoring the depth and all that stuff. So and they adjust it on the fly. Sometimes you're out there, you'll hear a buzzer go off like 6 or 7 times. When you hear that buzzer go off, what they're doing is they're adjusting the heights on the gates of the dam. So it's kind of interesting how it all works.
You fish a lot of dams too, like that, like the big dams and everything, spillways and all
Yep,
that.
yep, yep, yep.
So
Absolutely. It's gonna hold
how's the
fish
wind?
usually all year round.
Oh no, how's the wind kind of like affect your river fishing kind of deal?
Okay, what's that? Sorry, buddy.
Oh yeah. How's like the wind kind of affect the river for you?
Um, it affects it a lot. Um, if it's really windy, I won't even go out because what happens is when you're on a river system, unless you have something kind of blocking the wind or helping you out as far as dictating the direction of the wind, you get such a bow in your line that by the time a fish gets it and gets tight, I mean it's already gone. There's the wind allows so much slack in your line, and there's no way to keep it tight. In other words, so you miss a lot of bites. It's just hard fishing. It's rough. Um, if the wind's at your back, it's not as bad. You can, kind of direct what you're doing a little better. You keep your rod tip down towards the water, and you can get, a lot of that slack line out of it. But if you got your rod tip up, it's just going to be a big loop in your line. You're not gonna catch anything. If you do, you really hammered it.
Or like is
So,
directional kind of like a key factor for you if like the wind's blowing like a certain way? Is that a key factor for you sometimes?
uh, for me, it is, yeah. So I grew up with the saying that I kind of just abide by. So if the wind's coming out of the west, the fishing's the best. The wind's coming out of the east, the fishing's the least. If the wind's coming out of the north, do not go forth. I'm not going fishing. If the wind's coming out of south, it's gonna blow the bait in the mouth. So that little saying right there is kind of what I abide by. And usually it's spot on most of the time. If the wind's coming out of the south, I'm going to have a good day out there fishing. If it's coming out of the north, I'm going to struggle. I'm going to be out there all day for maybe one bite. That's almost a given up here. So,
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about that with like certain people where they're telling me like their wind is such a key factor for them sometimes. Like sometimes it is for me, it's like probably like half the time it might be or something, but some of these factors like the wind and the moon and all, so that's kind of what I'm trying to get out of people, because then if I know about all these different areas kind of thing about how these people are fishing and all this stuff, like for instance, I heard this one like he was saying like, oh, if the wind's blowing uh south, like it's good, but if it's north, we're not going or something. And I'm like he could just decide off the wind like that. Like me, I would still go risk it, but I guess like he's got his pattern down so good, like he
yeah.
ain't gonna go waste his gas or whatever. Like,
Well, and the one thing that I recommend everybody doing is, if you're constantly fishing that same spot, religiously, you're at that same spot or you're, two spots you're at all the time, take a journal. Write a fishing journal day by day every time you go out. Take a note of the barometric pressure. Take a note of the moon. Take a note of the wind. Take a note of the water temp. All those little factors are going to key in. And at the end of the month, I mean, if you go out 12 to 14 times, you'll be able to, kind of tone in or, dial in, I should say, a better fishing plan and have a better adventure out there next time.
so are you hitting like this? Are you doing that? Are you hitting like the same spots, kind of Like, oh, I'm gonna pick these three spots. You like dedicated to one lake, or you just like willing to go it? Like, how do you go about that? Because me, I kind of just I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna hit like these three or five bodies of water year round, and then we'll see what else happens. But like these three places, like we're going to, like.
Yeah, I really pick out a body of water and then I'll section that body of water off into like 10 different, corridors pretty much, and I'll spend, a day fishing this section, a day fishing this section. And like I said, I'm taking a journal, I'm writing notes, I'm doing my homework. So this really seems to help dial down, and I think 100% made me a better fisherman within these last 2 years, without a doubt.
Going to the same places like throughout the whole season and the whole year. Yeah.
Yep, because that's the only way that you're really gonna, get the right information, as far as wind. So I know now if the wind's coming out of the south, I got clear skies, I'm going here to fish and I'm probably gonna have a good day. If it's overcast, if it's no wind, I'm probably gonna go to this location, I'm probably gonna have a good day.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how I break everything down. But as far as fishing a new body of water that I never seen, I do exactly what I told you. I'll take, a week and I'll separate it into different corridors and I'll just fish those little areas and really do my research. So,
Or here's another one too. I asked somebody because we were kind of on this one. It's like how many times you go to a place after not catching fish, and then like we keep going because there's one place I go to where I like never catch fish, and I know I'll never catch fish, but like I'll continuously like go there trying to catch fish, kind of thing. Because like there's a few of them there, but like they're hard to catch. Like it's crazy.
oh, so here's a good story for you. So this was a while ago. My buddy takes me out trout fishing. We go out at night. We got green lights out. We just have the frickin' time of our life. Hammering down every other cast. We're reeling in a nice trout, nice rainbow. I fished that by myself for 3 years, religiously for 3 years. Did not catch a single fish out of that lake. Not a single fish. Didn't catch nothing but a cold off that lake. Finally, I sat down with him. I'm like, listen, there's something I'm not doing right. Let's go through it and figure it out. And he just couldn't figure it out or nothing. And all of a sudden, one day I'm out there and it just kind of clicked. And ever since then, I can go out there and catch trout all day now. But yeah, it took me 3 years to really lock down and figure out this lake. And it sucks because I got guys going there say, "Oh, well, we hammered it," blah blah blah. I go out there that same day or the next day, and I couldn't even buy a fish if I tried.
So that's like a that's like a real pressured spot though you're talking about, right? It's like everyone goes
It
there.
is, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a high pressured spot, so to not catch one there is kind of weird, but there is definitely a certain technique to go about it, and if nobody tells you about it, you just got to kind of run onto it yourself and figure it out. Hopefully, and get lucky.
Hmm.
But yeah, it took me 3 years to figure that lake out. I stayed at it. I was dedicated because I know damn well there's other people catching fish out there. Why wasn't I? So that kind of drove me to really figure that lake out.
Yeah, that's a trip, man. And so, uh, you prefer bait caster? Do you run a spinning rod on your kayak too?
Yeah, that's all I run is a spinning rod. I look at a bait caster and that thing bird nest, man. I stay away from them damn things. Maybe one day I'll grow a pair and pick one up, but yeah, for right now it's just spinning reel. That's what
Don't
I'm used to.
you have a bait caster, don't you?
I do not. I
I
actually
thought you
sold them
had.
all.
I thought you
I
had like.
sold them all.
Oh no way.
Get rid of them.
I guess.
Listen, I'd go out fishing. I'd spend the whole day trying to figure out the darn bird nest, trying to pull my line out than I do fishing. So yeah, no, they got put back in the garage. They went up for sale, and spinning rods and reels came back out. So
So are you
yeah, like I
catching?
said, it's just
Are you gonna be
getting
catching like?
used.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Getting used to the, adjusting the brake and everything. That's what I really got to learn or figure
Yeah,
out, I should say.
yeah. You gotta get that spool. You gotta put the brakes like you put the tension super tight, and then you put your
Yeah.
brakes in the middle or like eight, and then you run your spool speed, and then you gotta thumb it. You know, like um.
And it's funny because I know guys that first time they pick it up and they catch it on right away, but man, I just cannot get it down. One of these days I'll figure it out.
Do you have a story about the fish that got away?
Oh God, which one?
Yeah, you got like a monster one that like got away or something, or like
Uh, yeah, well, ended up tying into a pretty nice northern. My biggest northern is 39, and I kind of got a feeling this was bigger than that. The girth on it was just ridiculous. And I was with the father-in-law. We were out fishing, aluminum boat. He goes to net it, and he ends up netting it from behind. And as soon as the net hit the tail, that thing freaking shook, busted me off, took my jig, everything with it. Cried a little after that.
yeah, you just
But
swam
yeah,
off with your bait.
yeah, it'd be different if it was, my fault that I lost it, but I wasn't. It kind of sucked. But I still, to this day, don't let them net my fish.
Oh,
Oh man,
and
love the
so,
guy to death, but get away.
what would you say is some of your most valuable fishing gear? Like, and I don't mean like in money sense. Like, I mean, like for instance, like it might be like your kayak or this or that, or like for me, it's like my car. Like because my car takes me to everywhere I fish, kind of deal. Or like, so what's some like what would be like your most valuable like fishing gear, or some gear that's like valuable to you? Or
Well, this is kind of reaching a little bit, but my most valuable fishing gear, I think, is just the information and the hands-on that I got as far as growing up with my dad and grandpa bringing me out all the time. I
oh,
think that to me is, my most powerful piece of equipment I bring out there. Otherwise, yeah, I'd have to agree. The vehicle, obviously, to get you out there, my kayak. So, but I'd say the first is just the education I got on the water with hanging out with dad and grandpa. So.
okay, yeah, dude.
Fucking burning on an hour. This goes quick, buddy. We're gonna have to do this every week.